Hey, everybody, it's Marilyn Hughes from the Out of Body Travel Foundation. And I'd like to welcome you back to another live where we're going to answer a lot of questions here from all of y'all's. And just some quick reminders, please hit the subscribe button, keeps us searchable. And if you can, please consider becoming a member. That helps us keep our material available to people all around the world. So thank you so much for joining us. Let's dive right in. Okay, so this first question comes from Spencer. I found your podcast after reading My Big Toe, which led to reading the Journeys Out of the Body series. That is from Robert Monroe. I feel an insatiable thirst to learn everything I can about OBEs. I remember a point in Monroe's book where he prays to get out of a troubled situation and nothing happens. And I felt such a conflict with my belief system. So your work has helped explain why I feel such a deep spiritual attraction towards OBEs, since it is guiding me towards a closer relationship with God through Jesus. I've always felt like all religions speak different versions of the same truth, but the words and teachings of Jesus resonate on a whole different level. I have always sensed reincarnation and karma make sense as we purify our darkness through lessons to become more loving and full of light. I have always sensed we are all unified as tiny individualized pieces of our Creator, each parts of the whole, yet separated by our darkness and sin. As a former ER and hospice nurse, now addictions recovery nurse, I have seen people possessed, usually from meth or other drugs. Your work verifies all of my core beliefs. What a gift. Thank you so much for all your work writing these books and making these documentaries and podcasts. I struggle reading, but have listened to almost all of your podcasts and listened to the Mysteries of the Redemption audiobook. Is all your work available on audiobooks? I am so deeply grateful for you. I am starting to see purple, blue, radiating light bodies during deep meditation or when I awake from deep sleep and have been lucid dreaming. The last one I learned to breathe underwater and fly. Would you please pray for me? I have been praying that if it's God's will for me to have an OBE, that He uses it to grow closer to Him and to help accelerate the purification of my soul. I am trying to shed my vices, but like all humans, it's so difficult to break some of these bonds. I did a past life regression hypnosis session, and my guide through me said, I have lived hundreds of lives, so I'm hoping not to need hundreds more. I so yearn to be closer to God and serving others on the spiritual realm soon, much like my physical life spent healing and loving the broken. Well, sorry for my ranting. I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping my spiritual growth. God bless you, sister. Spencer. P.S. I'm going to check out the Catholic Church in my neighborhood. I am so inspired by the fact that you became Catholic through these experiences. I always thought it was crazy how my brother converted from Buddhism to Catholicism by listening to a Catholic priest's podcast. But now here I am about to do the same thing. LOL, God works in mysterious ways. Well, doesn't He so do? Welcome, everyone. MT, John, Anayel. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you all here. So, hi, Spencer. Thank you so much for writing and reaching out. Yes, all of my books are available on Audible, and I would be honored to pray for you. All of your words are like a balm to my soul. And they indicate that everything I have tried to convey in my work was so well conveyed to your spirit and soul. You understood it all on such a deeply felt level and are now beginning to experience it. I have prayed for you and commended your spirit to the Holy Virgin. I am blessed to hear your story, and I am so grateful you have shared it with me. Thank you so very much. Please keep me posted on your journey, both with the OBEs and with the Catholic Church. I'm so happy you shared it all with me. You truly made my day in doing so. Much love and many blessings. Okay, next question. Hello, dear Marilyn. I have a question for your live, and thank you for doing lives. It is such a blessing to my life. Sorry it took so long. I was reading Swedenborg's Afterlife book, and now I start reading your book, Understanding Basic Concepts of Spirituality. And on page 18, you state, quote, the physical body cannot ascend into this sphere without the energetic constructs within the soul attaining to higher and finer frequencies. Many souls on the planet at this time cannot stretch this far, no matter how much energy would be discharged in their direction, unquote. My question is in regards to energy. I have heard among the New Age community about the 12 portal dates. Portal dates are believed to be times when the veil between dimensions thins, allowing for easier manifestation, spiritual connection, and personal transformation. They are 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 88, which is apparently called a Lionsgate portal, 99, 10, 10, 11, 11, and 12, 12. I don't know much about portal dates, but I believe it has to do with the various constellation alignments that open up a flow of energy between the spiritual and physical worlds. My question is, in your book on page 18, Understanding Basic Concepts of Spirituality, as you talked about energy, vibrational raisings, and spiritual evolution, have you seen in your out-of-body travels if these dates specifically are indeed portals of energy? The simple answer is no. What I have seen is that what remains important is energy itself. And so what remains important is the energy and the frequency that we attain to. And that is what makes it easier or harder for us to travel to higher or lower spheres of vibration. And I think that one of the things that we as human beings like to do and kind of tend to do is we attribute all these worldly things to spiritual matters when the spiritual matters are actually more simple. It is simply whatever your energy can generate, wherever you vibrate to, what your frequency allows, that is what you are capable of traveling to or achieving in the spiritual worlds. And so I've never actually seen much about any of these things, although I have had experiences that let me know that there is more about things that have to do with sacred geometry, and there is stuff that has to do with mathematics and numbers that are beyond me because I'm not a mathematician. But in terms of just the understanding of do these dates make it easier? No. What makes it easier is that daily purification, that daily spiritual practice, all of the prayer, the silence, and the practice. That's what does it. And the actual vibrations and frequencies that you're achieving in the mystical spheres. And, some of that is within our control, and some of that is completely up to God. And, we don't choose, so that's what I've seen. And so she says, thank you, Marilyn, for all the work you do and for answering our questions. Your workbooks and videos have helped me to understand so much about spirituality, and I am grateful. Good day to you, my friend. Good day to you as well. That's from Adriana. Okay. This one is from Arnud. Um, Dear Marilyn, I don't know where to start. There's so much I want to tell and ask you. This week I found your work on the internet. I am absolutely dumbfounded that I have not heard or read of you before. Of course, there is a reason for this, and there is a reason why I found you this week. Your writings, and I have so far only read 165 pages, are very close to my heart. It stirs something in my heart. Last week, I was in a very bad mood, inwardly crying out to my deepest self. How could you plan this life without at least one person in my life who is willing to accept truth no matter what the cost? Who is profoundly on a spiritual journey, who is profoundly interested in Christ, his incarnation as Jesus on earth, lucid, dream work, OBE, unification of all religion, who is willing to set God ahead of all else. I became very cynical and sarcastic in my plea. You want me to lead this world into an enlightenment, but how can I possibly do this alone? How could you be so stupid? Well, it seems my wiser self was not that stupid after all. And he has a little laughing face there. You were here all this time, and there is a deep reason for the very, very lonely road I have been traveling. I was never really alone. One morning at the end of March this year, I woke up and heard the song Unstoppable by Sia in my mind. I'm unstoppable. I'm invincible. I'm so powerful. I'm so confident. Tears of joy rolled down my cheeks. God had spoken. While reading your experiences as an Indian woman and Indian man, I felt very deeply the pain of America, the way of love destroyed by man. They took it all. They took the land. That's a quote from my writings. The spirit who spoke through Edgar Cayce conveyed it too. Quote, it's a mob rule. The Indian spirit will return. Again, this is from my writings. The day has come for my return. The ways of old will spark and burn. All that I am, an Indian child, returns again with passion wild. Unquote. When my spiritual journey began around 1997, I bought a colorful drawing of a young Indian girl gazing in the distance in a store called Cheyenne. The drawing has been hanging on my bedroom wall ever since. So here are some of my questions. Have you ever heard about the Pathwork lectures? Have you had OBEs or lucid dreams going back to Atlantis? What do you think about the latest discovery of huge underground structures beneath the Great Giza Pyramid? Did you have OBEs about the pyramids and receive information about their true function and age? How did you overcome lust? This is one of the greatest struggles in my life. I once read an NDE of a man who was also puzzled by sexual lust, and Jesus said to the man, "You want me. You are looking for me." I accept this explanation, but once I feel this sexual lust, it is very hard in my emotions to abide by this knowledge. Up to now, quite impossible. What are your insights about this fault? I would be very grateful if you had any thoughts about it. I'm forever grateful to God that you are here in this earth sphere in form at this point in time. Warm regards, Arnud. Okay. Hello, Arnud. It's nice to hear from you. I'm honored by all your interesting reflections and intersections with my work. Thanks for sharing them. As to your questions, have you ever heard about the Pathwork lectures? No, but I just looked them up. They appear interesting. Have you had OBEs or lucid dreams going back to Atlantis? Yes, I have, and about Lemuria too. Keep reading, you'll get to those. They are scattered about my work, and I'm considering writing a more in-depth work, kind of bringing them all together. What do you think about the latest discovery of huge underground structures beneath the Great Giza Pyramid? Uh, yes, in the initiations into the mysteries, the Hall of Records is down there. So if you, for those of you who have read my books, uh, the part of the mysteries of the redemption, the second part, Passage to the Ancient, you go in the initiations into the mysteries, and you'll see that I traveled into the Hall of Records, which was below the Great Pyramid and below the Great Sphinx. And so finding underground structures beneath those would not surprise me at all. Did you have OBEs about the pyramids and receive information about their true function and age? I have during the initiations into the mysteries and the rites of passage. My book, Passage to the Ancient, the second book in the Mysteries of the Redemption series, covers a lot of that, but not all. What I've experienced primarily is their initiatory functions. My producer, Brian Malum, and I did some classes and films on these subjects as well. The initiations into the mysteries and the rites of passage. You can find those on our YouTube page, which is linked at the main website, outofbodytravel.org or astralprojection.co. How did you overcome lust? This is one of the greatest struggles in my life. And then he mentions this NDE of a man who said that Jesus said to this man, "You want me, you are looking for me." My response, this is scattered throughout the Mysteries of the Redemption series and beyond. It is within several of our film projects, including The Grand Phases of the Soul, The Stairway from Earth to Heaven, The Tao of Mysticism. But getting over lust or any vice involves the process of identifying and slowly removing it by replacing it with its opposite virtue. The opposite virtues would include temperance, continence, purity. So we would begin with things like spiritual reading, meditation, and prayer every day to start cultivating these higher, finer qualities within our soul, but realizing that the process takes time and effort and often takes many years. And then, in the words of one of my great priests, you don't cease being tempted until 20 minutes after your death. So we are always tempted throughout our lives, but we try to learn self-discipline and temperance. We cultivate purity and cleanliness. I often recommend people start by reading St. Francis de Sales, An Introduction to the Devout Life, along with The Mysteries of the Redemption, a treatise on out-of-body travel and mysticism. Thank you very much for your very kind words and welcome to the fold. Ask me anything. I'll be happy to guide you along. Many blessings and much love. And Arnud, if you are out there, I had received a second question from Arnud, and I had responded to it, but the email address came back as no longer working. And so feel free to send that again, and we'll try again if you decide to pursue that. All right. Okay, so here's a question from our beloved Adriana. And unfortunately, she's not with us right now, but this is from Adriana, and you all know her. Hello, dear Marilyn. I hope this letter finds you well. I have a question for your live. One of these days, no worries if you can't answer. I must start by saying that I had a cousin in Brazil who was a police officer. When I moved to the United States 34 years ago, I completely lost contact with him. Then last year, I felt I should write to him, and we began communicating and catching up with each other. I felt inclined to invite him to come to the US for his vacation, which he did come last May. We had a great time, and my family and I took him to several tourist attractions. I felt that it was important for him to have a pleasant time here since his job was dangerous and stressful. He returned to Brazil at the end of May because he had to go back to work on June 1st. To my dismay, a month later in mid-July, he was shot on his job and passed away. I have heard in many near-death experiences that we have several exit points to die. I wonder if this was the case for my cousin. My question is, in your out-of-body travels, have you seen if indeed we all have several exit dates for dying, and at any point we can choose to go or stay to the next exit date? Forgive me if you already answered this in your books. I'm reading them as time allows me, and I do enjoy them very much. Sometimes I just forget things that I read too. Nevertheless, I love hearing you speak when you explain. I never forget for some reason. God bless you and your loved ones. Adriana. So I did talk about this a little bit in trying to remember which section. I believe it would be in the first part of the Mysteries of the Redemption, or the second, that many of us are given we have a lot of different potential exit points. And this can be where we have options where we might cross over at that time. And certainly that could be the case for your cousin, Adriana. However, when something happens that is catastrophic to the human body, like what happened to him, it would no longer be an optional exit point. It would just be that he was going to die at that time. And whether or not that was something set in stone, where he knew before he came into this life that this was going to be when he would die for certain, or if this was something that happened as the result of a karmic action of another soul. Only God and his soul know this at this time, and those on the other side who are in the know about it in this case. But so it could be either of those things. It could be that this was already foreknown, and it can also be that it was just a random act of, another individual that caused a catastrophic end to another person's life. Not everything that happens in the world, in fact, much of what happens in the world is not meant to be. It's the acts, karmic acts of individuals, but that is all anticipated and understood in God's big plan. And so he probably did have many exit points where he could go. And then this particular time was not an option at this point because it was a catastrophic episode. So this would not have been like a choice at this point. And I'm just so sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry that he died so young. But as you and I have texted about, God has, and his mother have him in their hands, and they know what the reasons for all this were. And so God bless you, and God bless your cousin. And it's a great question. So thank you for that. Okay. All right. So this is from Tellus. Hi, Marilyn. I've been looking for any of your videos, books, podcasts that discuss the belief of reincarnation in Catholicism. My sister had an extreme nighttime experience / dream where a very demonic entity presented itself in association with her past beliefs or behavior. She used to be into tarot and astrology. And from this, she knew deep down that she had to convert to Catholicism in a more committed way. I totally supported her choice and we bonded more over it. But recently, she denied reincarnation. Not an argument or anything, just like an, oh no, dear, that's not real. There's just a heaven, hell, and maybe purgatory. I don't want to skew her path or question her at all, but I did want to at least validate that reincarnation, although controversial, is compatible within Catholicism. I found one YouTube Q&A video you made 5 years ago on the subject, but it was more of an introduction to biblical verses with reincarnation elements for Christians generally. I'm wondering if you have any recommendations for Catholicism specifically. Take care, and thank you for bringing so much into this world. So, interesting question. Okay. So, hi, Tellus. I have 3 books that are pretty good about Christianity and reincarnation, not any in particular about Catholicism. And those are Why Jesus Taught Reincarnation by Herbert Bruce Puryear, The Christian and Reincarnation by Stephen M. Lampe, and Reincarnation in Christianity, Geddes McGregor. Just want to acknowledge Adriana joined us. Hi, Adriana. So glad to see you here. And she says, thank you for answering my question. You are very welcome. Luminosity, welcome as well. I've tried to astral project, didn't work. Well, I would love to hear more. If you have any specific question about it, I can answer that after I finish this one. So go ahead and put that in the chat and I'll answer you next. Thank you guys for coming. So happy to see you, Adriana, too. And I'm very sorry for your loss. So generally, this is again to Tellus and his question. Generally, if she doesn't believe in reincarnation, it's okay. It won't matter. If it's important, it will come to her. But Catholicism no longer teaches reincarnation, so she'll do better staying in line with orthodoxy in her desire to return to the church. And the demonic experience is only more of an indication that this might be a better path for her. But I did pull up from Google some summaries of some of what the early church fathers who did believe in reincarnation might have said. And for those of you who have read the Mysteries of the Redemption, you know that I've included quotations from, some of the early church fathers like Origen, St. Clement, and some of these early church fathers. But I'll give you some of these just summaries from Google on this reincarnation within Christianity. And it says from Google, while some early church fathers, like Origen, explored the concept of preexistence and reincarnation, it was not universally accepted or dominant within early Christianity. Many church fathers, especially later ones, explicitly rejected it as incompatible with Christian doctrine. So a more detailed look, it says it's not that detailed, but I'll just give you the overview here. So Origen was a prominent early theologian. He did speculate, and I have some quotes in the Mysteries of the Redemption of his. And he's kind of like one that most people are aware of, who actually wrote about reincarnation and openly. And then there's St. Clement of Alexandria, also another early church father, and Justin Martyr, an early church apologist. He also openly discussed reincarnation. All 3 of those are quoted in the Mysteries of the Redemption. As for rejection and suppression, in the Google summary, it talks about the Second Council of Constantinople in 553 AD. It says, while not explicitly condemned as heresy at this council, the writings of those who supported reincarnation, particularly Origen, were banned. And then conflict with Orthodox doctrine, the concept of reincarnation was increasingly seen as incompatible. And then later church fathers like Augustine, Jerome, actively refuted reincarnation, emphasizing the finality of death and judgment. And then as time passed on, they did more arguments against reincarnation. And so Google's conclusion was, while some early church fathers explored reincarnation, and it was an acceptable belief, in the early Christian church for, up the first 500 years, it was never a universally held belief. But as the faith developed, the concept of reincarnation eventually became incompatible with the core Christian dogmas that developed. And so hopefully that's helpful. It's talked about a little bit in if you do a search in the file and look up reincarnation, it'll take you to the places where these things are laid out in the Mysteries of the Redemption. And so that was that question about reincarnation and Catholicism. And basically the point that I'm trying to make is that if someone's trying to go back to the Catholic Church and they decide that they don't believe in reincarnation anymore, it's okay. Usually it's not an issue and doesn't matter. The only time reincarnation is going to matter is if it's brought up to that person, because there are things that are being brought up that soul needs to come to terms with, needs to purify, needs to overcome habitual behaviors, habitual stuff. In my case, I had to recognize a life pattern that was going on. Let's take a look at here what Luminosity is asking. I've tried to astral project. It didn't work. Do you do that only if you have higher vibrations? Not necessarily. There are a lot of people who have had totally spontaneous out-of-body travels, astral projections. But what happens is generally you will need to go into a vibrational state before you will get out of your body. And so there are some things that you can do that will make it more likely that you will have the experience. And then what you have to understand is that there is this process. There's like an evolution. The first experience is just the first experience. And then what you're doing is you are trying to increase your vibration as you go. However, in order to try to have your first experience, what you're trying to do is kind of different. You're just trying to get to the level of consciousness needed, which is a deep level of consciousness, so that you can go into a vibrational state where this can occur. And I think what I'd recommend for you, Luminosity, is to consider reading Come to Wisdom's Door and the Mysteries of the Redemption, how to have an out-of-body, a treatise on out-of-body travel and mysticism, which you can get at the website, outofbodytravel.org. You can download it for free, or you can get it in whatever format you want. And what you can do with that, it helps you to understand the little things you can do to get into a state of preparation, the meditations, the long periods of meditations. I usually recommend 3 hours to get you into a deep enough state of consciousness to prepare to go into a vibrational state. It talks about a lot of the different things that you can expect to happen, talks about the importance of the silence, the prayer, the meditation, and then the Mysteries of the Redemption has this, it's just kind of energetically endowed with the ability to kind of help you to prepare. And a lot of people end up having spontaneous experiences as a result of reading it. And so the combination of the two is really helpful. You can also, watch our film here, How to Have an Out of Body Experience. And we also have a lot of others, The Grand Phases of the Soul, which will definitely help you to understand what I'm talking about, which is the process that you are embarking on, which is that it's not just about having the astral projection. It's actually about, you want to go there too, but then you want to take it to understanding what is the purpose of the experience, and then where do you want to go with it once you are actually going down that pathway. What is the reason for it? And that is this purification process that we've been talking about with all these questions. And that is what this, this higher vibration thing is about. It's about how does this happen? And you'll learn how that happens in the mysteries of the redemption, how that occurs through the process of having these experiences and allowing your angelic guardians to do these things, prepare yourself, and actually raise your vibrations to get you to these next levels and do these kinds of things. Oh, you're very welcome, Luminosity. I hope that's helpful, but definitely look into those things. There's also Astral Projection Made Easy, which is kind of like a little devotional thing that you can use. It has little reminders that you can meditate on. And it's a very simple book. You can use it in conjunction with Come to Wisdom's Door. Very simple, but it helps you to focus on what you want to focus on as you're trying to have these experiences. A lot of times people can get very caught up in making it too complicated, actually. And that's part of it. And so, just consider starting with just these, 3 things: Come to Wisdom's Door, Astral Projection Made Easy, which is going to give you some little affirmations that you're going to meditate with, and the Mysteries of the Redemption, which is going to teach you what you're actually trying to do here, and where it's going to take you. That's going to help you to better understand, well, why do this in the first place? What's the point? That's going to be really pivotal in really forming and guiding you forward, so that you understand this isn't just about this happening just one time or 2 times. This is actually the beginning of a spiritual process. Okay. And so, hi, Andrew. Welcome as well. Glad to have you. I'm so glad that everyone came and joined. Thank you so much for coming. And please feel free to join me in just a few minutes here. I will be doing an episode of Tales of the Mendicant Preachers, if my voice holds out. And so please feel free to pop in there. I don't talk to the people in the chat room, but you're welcome to be there when I do a Tales of the Mendicant Preachers. But this one is really cool. Adriana says Gregorian chants is great for meditation, very peaceful. Absolutely. And in fact, throughout the day, I listen to Gregorian chants almost exclusively throughout the day as I go about my daily duties. And so, there's a reason why Gregorian chants are great for meditation, and it's because they are the liturgy of the church. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of homework, okay? So for those of you who have not yet read, I know some of you may have, for those of you who have not read The Primordial Seed, there's a reason why Gregorian chants are great for meditation. And part of the reason is because Gregorian chants are part of the prayer of the church. And what is the prayer of the church? The prayer of the church is the liturgy of the church, the liturgy of the word. And what is the liturgy of the word? It comes from the divine office, the prayer of the angels that constantly goes 24/7 in a circular motion from earth to heaven, around the throne of God, from earth to heaven. And the primordial seed opens up that mystery for you if you'd like to understand it better. There's a reason why Gregorian chants are different. They're not just because they're pretty and peaceful, it's because they are the prayers of the angels from heaven to earth. Aniel asks, is there a particular Gregorian chant you can recommend? Boy, there's so many. You can, if you don't have any, you can start with the Kyrie eleison, which is a foundational Gregorian chant of the church, and just start from there. And there are so many beautiful versions of that on YouTube. I'm thinking of one in particular. There was an artist, and if I can find it, I will find a link and I will put it here with the video of this Kyrie eleison that was done by an artist who really amplified it to heaven. And I will add it to the description of this video. But I would like to give you guys that homework. Kyrie eleison. Let me just verify that I remember the meaning correctly. Kyrie is always an invocation in the in the liturgies. It's Lord have mercy, and you're going to see a lot of Kyrie in a lot of the liturgies. But all of most of the Gregorian chants are done in Latin, although there are some that are done in other languages. I do have some like that are in Aramaic, and those are very cool too, because that's the language that Jesus spoke. But the majority of them are done in Latin. And the reason they were done in Latin was because in the early church, Latin was used so that it would be the universal language that was spoken by everyone around the world. It was the universal language. So if you went to any church in the world, in a Catholic church, you would hear the Mass in Latin, and you would be able to, if you spoke Latin, to understand the entire service, because it would be done in the universal language of Latin. And so the Gregorian chants were primarily written in Latin, although there are some in these other languages. And then if you go, I have all these fun little liturgies, which, by the way, there's another book about liturgies that I wrote called The Limb of the Redemption, for those who like deep homework. I know Adriana enjoyed The Limb of the Redemption. Maybe she has something to say about it sometime, but there's like the Coptic liturgies, the ones that are in Coptic. We have the Aramaic, but we also have Armenian. And going all the way back, we have the original liturgy that was written by St. James in Jerusalem, the very first liturgy in Jerusalem by St. James. Oh, Adriana says Catholic Chants TV YouTube has a great one. Okay, well, I accept that recommendation. And so we start with Lord have mercy. And most Catholic masses, a big part, Lord have mercy is a big part of the prayer of the church. So whether it's during a Holy Mass or during adoration or during some of the other prayers throughout Mass or other types of rituals, you will see Lord have mercy. And you'll hear the prayers, Lord have mercy, and the congregation repeats it. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. These are some of the staple prayers of the church. And so take those little seeds and let me know what y'all come up with. And I'll see you next time. And for those of you who want to join me for my little Tales of the Mendicant Preachers, I will be talking and sharing from Elder Thaddeus, an Orthodox priest. And he has some amazing stuff I'm going to share in just a few minutes. So I'll see those of you who join me there in just a few minutes. See you next time.